In this video, we are going to discuss conic sections and specifically parabolas, and we're going to write the equation and graph a parabola using both the focus and or the directrix. By definition, a parabola is the set of all points in a plane that are the same distance from a fixed line and a fixed point that's not on the line. A fixed point is called the focus, and the fixed line is called the directrix. The focus is denoted by this point right there, and the directrix is noted by this green line. Now, what that basically means is a parabola is created by finding points that if you were to find the distance from this point to the focus, it will be the exact same distance as if it was drawn to the directrix. So if this distance was 5, this distance would also be 5. Same thing, if I was to take another point and draw a straight line to the focus and then draw a straight line to the directrix, they would be the same distance. And that is what the set of all points in a plane is going to be referred to. The fixed point we have also talked about just now is the focus and the directrix. Now, one other cool thing is that the distance from the focus to the vertex and the distance from the vertex to the directrix is also the same. So if the distance from the focus to the vertex was 3, then the distance from the vertex to the directrix is also 3. There are 4 directions that a parabola can face. It can either open upward, in which the focus is inside the parabola and the directrix is below it. It can open downward, it can open to the right, and it can open to the left. If a parabola is opening up or down, so specifically if a graph opens up or if a graph opens down, then it is going to be in the form of y equals some constant times x squared. And to find what that number might be, you will use this formula. In this case, P is the distance from the vertex to the focus, or from the vertex to the directrix. Again, because we know that the same thing, the distance from the vertex to the focus and the vertex to the directrix, it is the same. So it does not matter which P you are to find, but P stands for that distance. If the graph is opening upward, that means that constant number in front is going to be positive, greater than 0. And if it's opening downward, then A is going to be negative. If the graph is opening to the right or to the left, then it is going to be the equation x equals some constant times y squared. So it will be x equals if it is opening to the right or to the left. P is still the same P as before. And it opens to the right if A is positive, greater than 0. And it is going to the left if A is negative, less than 0. So for example, we want to know the equation that represents a parabola with the vertex at the origin. So we recognize that this is the origin 0, 0. And the focus is at negative 5, 0. So the first thing we're going to look at is which way is it opening. So first, we recognize that it opens to the left. So we know that it is going to be x equals negative a times y squared. And again, it is going to be a negative because it opened left. To find a, so the second part is we are going to find A. And that is by the equation A equals 1 over 4 times P. P, again, is the distance from the focus to the vertex, which in this case is 5, because we went from negative 5, 0 to 0, 0, which means we went a distance of 5. So therefore, A equals 1 over 4 times 5, which is 1 over 20. And so therefore, our answer is going to be x equals a negative 1 over 20 y squared. So in this case, we are going to go in the opposite direction. I now give you an equation, and I want to know what the focus and the directrix of this graph is going to be. So I know, well, first, so number one, it is a y equals, and so therefore I know it's going to either open up or down. It's a negative 1 over 16x squared. So the two things. It's a y equals, so it's either going to go open up or down. And the next thing I recognize is there's a negative, so therefore it is going to open down. So I know my equation is going to open down. What it wants to know is what is this focus, and then what is going to be the directrix. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to take the A. We know that A is 1 over 16. The negative tells us it's going down, but A is 1 over 16. And we also know that A equals 1 over 4P. So I'm going to set that equal to each other, the fact that A equals 1 over 16. I am thinking 4 times what number gives me 16? So I know that P is 4, because 4 times what gives me 16 and is 4. What does that tell me? That is the distance from, again, the vertex to the focus and to the directrix. So therefore, if I know that my distance is 4, therefore I can actually count down in order to find my focus. So therefore, I know that my focus is going from 0, 0, and I'm going to go down 4, so that I know my focus is going to be 0, comma, negative 4, because it is on the y-axis, and I know how to go down 4. That's why it's negative. The directrix is going in the opposite direction. If my origin is 0, 0, my directrix means that I went up 4. So my directrix is going to be y equals 4, because again, the directrix is an equation. And so there are my two answers, my focus and my directrix. Now, what happens if the equation of a parabola, or the graph of a parabola for that matter, is not coming from the origin? If it's not coming from 0, 0, and instead the vertex is at a different place. So what are we going to do when the vertex is not on the origin? And here are the two equations, one for it opening up and down, and one for left and right. A equals 1 over 4P is still the same equation as before. And this comes from the vertex form of a parabola. So if it opens up or down, then you are going to use this equation. It's going to be y equals, if A is positive, it's going to open up, and if A is negative, it's going to open down. And then H and K is the vertex. So in this, if you notice that my X value of my vertex is 1, and since it's X minus H, that's why there's a minus there. And then the 5 is my Y value, and that goes outside of the parentheses just like the K does. So again, the H goes with my X value, the K goes with my Y value. If it is a horizontal, meaning it's opening up left or right, it becomes X equals, and if you notice, the K is with my Y, so where over here we had H inside the parentheses, it goes with my X because H represented the X value. H represents your X value. K represents your Y value. So the K is still going to stay with my Y, and the H is going to stay with my X. So if you notice, my X value 5 is now going to go on the outside, and my Y value 1 is what's going to go on the inside. So here's an example. We want to write an equation of a parabola with the vertex 1, 1. So 1, 1 is going to be right there. And my directrix is y equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that this is going to be my directrix. So if my directrix is this way, that means my vertex is going to be facing down, because it always faces the opposite direction of my directrix. Now, the distance from my directrix to my vertex is 3. Going from 1 up to 4 is 3, which means my focus is in the opposite direction. So I know that this is my focus. We didn't necessarily need it, but it's just good to know where the focus is. So we are now going to write the equation. First, we have to find P. That is the distance from the directrix to the vertex, and so we know that P is 3. So therefore, I can do A. A is 1 over 4P, which means A is 1 over 4 times 3, which means A is 1/12. We also know that it opens down, so therefore it is a negative 1/12. And because it opens down, we also know that we're going to use the y equals. Down and up is going to be y equals. So now I believe we can write everything. So the final answer is going to be y equals. A is negative 1 over 12. And then my vertex is x minus 1 squared plus 1. Because again, my vertex of 1, 1, h and k. H represents 1. K represents 1. So the h is a 1. And k is a 1, and that is my final answer. And last example, write the equation with a focus and a vertex. So here we go. A vertex starts right there, and a focus is negative 3, 2. That's my focus. That means a focus is always inside the parabola, which means we knew that it opens to the left. Now, what's the distance from the focus to the directrix? From the focus to the vertex. It is 3. So even though we don't need it, I am still going to go draw the fact that I know my my directrix is going to be graphed like that. Okay, we know it opens to the left. Therefore, I know that this is going to be an x equals negative a times y minus k squared plus h. Now, I can go ahead and find my a, because a is 1 over 4p. And I know p is 3. So I know a is 1/12. And because it opens left, I know it is a negative 1/12. I also know my vertex, h and k. So now I can write the equation. It is going to be x equals negative 1/12 y minus k, and k is 2, and then plus h, which is 0. Now you don't necessarily have to have the plus 0, so you could just say negative 1/12 y minus 2 squared as your answer.